Namaste, viewers. Welcome to Jaipur Dialogue USA. And today we want to dive into a very serious issue. The serious issue is the caste battle which is going on in California, particularly, where a legislation number SB 403 has been tabled and it is in various stage of processing. Not fully approved yet because it has to go through the various committees and various stages of the process. And the reason why we are talking about this caste thing, that because it almost looks like that evil bullet that is being used to destroy Hindus, Indians, it is being used as a pill, a deadly pill that can easily dismantle Hindu view of life. And it is also a slur on us, the most successful immigrant community in this country or anywhere in the world, who is remarkably peaceful, totally law abiding, not a lawbreaker community, but we are targeted as the evil one. So, talk about this issue. I have great pleasure in welcoming four warriors, and I was very excited to find these four warriors who have been on the streets literally fighting the case. I'm not, these names are names that you may or may not have heard ever before. And I have the greatest pleasure because I know quite a few of them. And they have been on my show before. And I'm glad to welcome Geeta Sikandji. She's remarkably a great warrior. She writes to LA Times whenever there is an element that she finds very disconcerting, and her letters are all over LA Times, correcting the narrative of the Hindu agenda. I have Satish Bangalore-ji. His name is Mr. Pale, but he's famously known as Satish Bangalore. He carries the name Bangalore, my honeymoon city, so I have no problem in dealing with Satish Bangalore-ji. Then we have Pushpita Prasad-ji. She has been on my show with Nikunj. She represents Kohna. And Chandrasekhar Wagh-ji. So, these are all people who have been battling this issue in various assembly segments, and I wanted all of us to know about their impression of things as to why this entire thing is gaining such a momentum in California. Now, why California is important? Because somewhere along the line, I've lived in California. California sets the standards for things. Just like the emission standard for fuel efficiency, it has become the national thing. I remember when I was buying a car, my first time in 1991, the car dealership said, "Oh, we have California emissions," as if it was a matter of pride or a badge of honor. Be that as it may, California also sets the agenda for educational curriculums in schools and other places. And that's why California legislation is important, because a whole lot of Indians live there, work there, in Silicon Valley and other places, which is where this thing is happening. If this goes through in California, the odds are the enemies of us, as I call it, they are all scheduled to march over to New York. In no time, it will be in New Jersey, in Connecticut, in Massachusetts, and it will be a national matter. It becomes a national matter here. Imagine it has direct repercussions on India as well, because when people come on H-1B visa or transfers or qualified engineers and professionals come here, they will be asked what their caste is. So, Geeta ji, I want to shoot off with you on this matter. And that's very important, that this is, in my opinion, it seems to be an assault on Hindus. And I'm not even going to talk about Indians. I'm going to talk about Hindus of India particularly, not the Hindus of Bangladesh and others, Pakistan, because they are involved, but we are the target. Once we are done, the rest of them automatically die. So this is what is important for us. So share with us your thought, why is SB 403 is a terrible assault on Hindus? Your thoughts on this as you have fought them along.
Thank you, Vibhuti-ji. That's a great question. SB 403 is an assault on Hindus because it lists the word caste in it 11 times in the amended version as of July 10th. We cannot have even one time the word caste listed in the bill, because caste is associated with Hinduism and Hindus, and wrongly associated with Hindus and Hinduism, because a false narrative has been set up ever since the British ruled India. And in 1771, when there was a large uprising by the local, I'd like to call them Bhartiyas, because at that time it wasn't India, it was Bhartiya, it was Bharat. So, and there was a very strong uprising by the Bhartiyas, and the British almost lost. So that gave them the red light as far as, or the red flag as far as we need to do something about this. And that's when they took our jati and varna, and with manipulation, they made it into the what the Portuguese call as their castas or caste system. Our Hindus never had in our scriptures caste. We had jati and we had varna. And Aisha Wahab here, now I'm going to bring this back to here. Aisha Wahab here refuses to remove the word caste. And we are saying even one time if it is listed, it is once too many. And there it is 11 times listed in the amended version. And what that will do is it will stigmatize our Hindu community. I call it the cultural genocide of Hindus and Hinduism. And our kids are going to be bullied. Our children are going to be labeled as castes or oppressors, and there's going to be a real storm of problems for all of us as a community. And my question to our Hindu community is, are you willing to take this responsibility, to shoulder this responsibility for not having done your part to stop this cultural genocide of Hindus? When our grandkids will soon be bullied and they ask us, Grandma, Grandpa, I have 8 grandchildren. What did you do about stopping SB 403? So I ask the same question of our whole Hindu community and to Aisha Wahab for stigmatizing our Hindu community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very powerful opening statement, Geeta ji. Thank you very much. And I'm coming to Pushpita ji on this because she needs to leave in a short while. So, you represent Kona, and I'm delighted about this body that does an awesome job. Share with us one particular dilemma that I have, I continuously ask as a TV journalist and aware individual, that equality labs with bogus data and false data created a narrative about caste. At the same time, we had Pew Research, Carnegie Foundation research, which told categorically, and they were categorical in their statement, that there is no evidence of caste based discrimination. Leaving, taking into account what Mr. Iyer had told in the recent convention that happened in California, his experience, what is the lesson that we take from there? How is it that the institutional framework of Hindus did not push for the Pew and Carnegie Foundation, and we are now holding a very dangerous baby in our hands to fight with? Pushpita ji.
Yeah. Namaste, Vibhuti ji. Very glad to be back on your show. Um, the question you phrased is emblematic of the problem that the Hindu American community faces today. So the data is on our side, the facts on our side, logic is on our side. Um, but as Nikunj, who's been on your show before, talks a lot. You live in the era of we sort of believe in Satyamev Jayate. That's our community's belief. But we live in the era of propaganda Mev Jayate, and we have failed terribly as a community despite our economic success. And we've said this several times before that we have been very single minded and not really engaged with our communities, whether it's media, policyholders, academicians, your local community, whatever it is. And I come from a PR and communications background. In business, there's a popular saying that if you don't talk about yourself, somebody else will. And that's exactly what has happened to us, is that we have been heads down focused on doing what we do. We're also, the community in the US is a little skewed because it's very STEM heavy. I think that has also contributed to the problem because that's how the immigration patterns worked. So we have really not owned our narrative, but this is also a global problem. I would just like to point out, several times I've done this, is whose job is it at a global level to defend Hinduism or propagate Hinduism? For all our wanted success or whatever, there is not one person or institution in the world whose job it is to defend Hinduism, which makes Hinduism an easy target. When you go up against other religions, you face institutional barriers. And I keep harping on the word institutional because, there are many passionate, committed individuals, but that doesn't work at the institutional level. And so the US works on institutions, and Kona actually is an attempt to build an institutional fight back, to really take the concerted power of passionate individuals and sort of have a situation where you have 2 plus 2 equal to 10. So Pew Research, Carnegie, just common sense, all of this doesn't work because we have been deplatformed from academia first and then from the media. And if you look at how information flows in the US and most places, there's sort of a pyramid, right? And at the top actually are the academicians who sort of think of these ideas in the academia. From there, it percolates into think tanks, media, and down to the activist level. So, around 20 years ago, the process of deplatforming Hinduism from academia really picked up steam. And people who tried to bring it to the fore were sort of ignored because, oh, this sounds like too crazy an idea. But here we are. Even 2 years ago, I was telling an individual, couple of senior leaders here in the Bay Area, is like, a caste law is going to come. People wouldn't believe it. They're like, you're just like fear mongering. And even now, that situation hasn't changed because a lot of people are like, well, what's the problem with SB 403? If you're fear mongering, surely, right? If you oppose it, you must be wanting to be castist. That's why you're opposing it. And I'm like, so we just don't seem to learn. And at the end of the day, we need to speak up and speak back. So the US is very much a country where advocating for yourself is part of the process. If you don't advocate for yourself, this is the situation you're going to find yourself in. This is not doing politics. This is not being a troublemaker. This is literally doing I always say this is as American as apple pie. So, if you don't engage, and not enough of us engage. So there are 5 of us here. That's good. But we need to have 500, 5,000 people doing this. And that's where the problem lies.
You brought in a very favorite topic of mine. Pushpita ji, please mute करिए अपने आप को. So you brought a very important part of the institutional framework. But I notice here we have Kona as a new body, but HAF has been there, Hindu HSS has been there, VHPA has been there. There are many bodies which have existed for many years. Chandrasekhar ji, tell us something about it, about this institutional response. Where are our institutions who are there? I mean, I know HAF very well. They have been doing all that is required to be done. But there is VHPA, there is HSS, there are many other bodies. Where do they stand with reference to this?
Yeah, Vibhudaji, just before beginning, I would like to say thanks for having me on this show to
You're welcome, sir.
participate into this current controversial bill, what is happening in California, that is SB 403. Look at the narrative, right? The narrative started long time back, or particularly done kind of a in order to. So there was a complete pathway. Like if you look at all the data, historical data, that how Equality Labs started working on this caste-related things right from their survey to the Cisco case and then SB 403, right? So if we look at their journey, like we as a Hindus, right, we have our own family life, our own ambitions, right? As that is the life span of average Hindu. We were not aware about what is happening, right? So our response to this also came a bit late, right? And that actually started happening from the Cisco discrimination case. Me being a Cisco employee for almost for 20 plus years, and when I look at when I kind of started following this Cisco case, we felt that somebody is writing a narratives against us without taking into consideration of our thoughts, right? So this SB 403, what Equality Lab or the what Senator Wahab always heard the story from the one side, but they never bothered to meet the leaders from the other community. One classic example of this hearing was that when the hearing came into Santa Clara County, that time we came to know about that public hearing just a couple of days back, right? So we were not invited. So then kind of like when we started talking about, then we got a chance like Kona represented it, HS is represented it, have got a representation to talk about it. So we were kind of a completely away from this entire process. We as an institution, as an a Hindu community, who kind of a having this demeaning effect by these narratives, which is going to impact all of us at the workplaces, our kids at the education, because SB 403 talks about the discrimination exists in workplaces and as well in the educational institute. So we are going to suffer, our kids are going to suffer, we are going to suffer in a professional life. Looking at the Cisco case, if we look at, right, they targeted specifically that the position was not offered to the plaintiff. So if we look at that narratives very carefully, and if we look at all the documentation of this castgate.org, it is clearly seeing the biases setting these narratives, including the CRD, that is a California um, Civil Rights Department, which is actually running this show on behalf of the plaintiff against Cisco. So if we look at their entire narrative, it is demeaning. It is this caste is, as per CRD, there is a clear mention about the caste uh, connection to the Hinduism. So it is undoubtedly an attack on us. And as an institutions, we were taken. We're a bit shocked to hear it because we enter into these narratives, unlearning the narratives bit late. So definitely, like this is a kind of a wake up, an alarm for us to be aware about what is happening in the media, in the mainstream media against us.
So that is, you have made some very interesting observations. One was particularly that we were not invited to any of those conversations, and the fact that we were caught unawares. Now, here comes my question. As a strategic student of strategy and international and geopolitics and everything else, is awareness is one thing, asserting is yet another. So the point is that our enemies were determined to do something. Why did we expect them to call us? When somebody is out to destroy you, why do you think he will give you a chance to create a protective shield around you or argue or fight that? That's a flaw in our ointment, the way we think about it. Now, I want to ask you a very simple question. If even after all that has happened, is the Indian community or the Hindu community really awake? What do you see on the streets of California amongst the Hindu community?
So in general perceptions, that many of our community is unaware about what is happening. So people who are participating directly either in the public hearings, on the open platform, or discussing in the workplaces, they are aware about it. There is another section, they are completely unaware, and there is another percentage of the people who are aware about these issues totally in a brainwashed way, that this caste has nothing to do with Hinduism. This is kind of a biases has been kind of a hammered onto other set of Indian Americans or Hindus at large, who believes that caste is, they are the look at, if we look at the current framework of SB 403, what has gone to various stages now, it has been dealing from the Hinduism, right? There is another narrative has been set up that caste exists everywhere. They even kind of in the assembly member, they even ended up saying that it exists in Japan, right? So this kind of a false data uh, being propagated on our community without understanding the major agenda behind bringing this SB 403, that carried out this mispropaganda that caste has nothing to do with Hinduism. But in fact, it is. And that is where we have to play a role, that how these correct narratives can go to our community to understand the grievances and the future lies ahead of us, and how this is going to hit us back including our kids and several other generations going forward. So, so this is the area we all have to work, and it is a bit challenging because we always have challenge like how to communicate, how do we take it to masses. So this has to be kind of a definitely we all have to discuss and think around it.
Thank you. Satish ji, I'm coming to another topic, issue related with this, which is a very tragic issue. Because, I'm aware of the gentleman, Mr. Milind Makwana, who was one of those communities about whom the entire assembly was talking about. And he said that you are talking about me without consulting me or knowing about me. And tragically, Milind met with accidental death in that very moment. So I've heard that 42nd of the time allotted to him to speak. It is very touching. He's asking the assembly people, all those people who were there, that you are talking about me or taking a decision on me without talking to me about it. Tell us something about Milind. How did he get enrolled in this process? And what was his mindset when he came and stood against SB 403, despite being one of the so-called, defined class uh, for whom this entire legislation is all about? सतीश जी, अनम्यूट करिए अपने आप को.
Thank you. Thank you, Vibhuti ji, and glad to be here and with other warriors, Pushpita ji, Geeta ji, and Chandrasekhar ji. Appreciate the time. So, just to give my background, I'm national convener for Americans for Hindus, which is a super PAC, and we have been fighting Hindu causes from the political advocacy side way back from 2019. Uh, so coming back to the topic, Milinji, Milinji, I know from a couple of years. We have been working on the common causes, and everybody here definitely has some kind of connection. And of course, Chandrasekhar ji has more to say because Milinji was part of Seva International, and he was parallelly working on multiple projects, and as part of his initiative, many initiatives, I would say, he was very much closely involved. He got innovative ideas to look into the Hindu causes, and one of the cause was SB 403. So just to go back, historical, definitely he had a complicated surgery way back in December, and he was trying to recover from the surgery, and the SB 403 hit us everybody so bad. And Milind was there at the forefront that he wants to be part of it, and he represented in the, I would say, the first time when we all went to the Sacramento uh, to the committee, Senate committee, and he was there on the wheelchair way back in April. So that was his commitment at the morning 4 a.m. He called me up and said, "Hey, Satish ji, I would like to come." I said, "Come on, you can't make it because you are still recovering. It's not a good idea." So I think that was his commitment. So what to get back into what Milinji has felt about it is, he is from the marginalized community where he did not get a chance to talk to Senator Wahab, who has introduced this bill, and the frustration itself has turned into kind of a force for him to take it in the forefront, and wherever he get the platform he would try to express his concern and his strong opposition to it. And what happened as part of his comments within the Cupertino City Council where the incident has happened, and I and Pushpita ji were there. Couple of things has transpired there because he came with his two kids. So his elder daughter got a chance to speak in the city council, whereas younger son did not get a chance. So he was a little bit concerned, that disappointed that why he didn't get a chance, and he was trying to inquire with the city manager there and others, and a lot of things transpired. It was a couple of heated argument with the Senator Wahab's supporters, and there was certain kind of intimidation which I have and Pushpita ji have seen. And what has transpired is that the hooligans who behaved in such an unparliamentary way within the Cupertino City Council and kind of a threatening environment has definitely caused some kind of a stress on him, and that's where he collapsed, unfortunately, in the parking lot. It's I would say that SB 403 has blood of MLNG on it. Other than the SB 403, MLNG was working on various kinds of projects. I would say I would maybe Chandrasekharji can enlighten more, but even the Santa Clara County, when the Caste came as part of the policy, he was a forefront runner as part of fighting it out. So in July 4th, we had the parade within the San Jose, and he said, Satishji, let's go. And why don't we register this under the name of Hindu banner and we represent as part of the July 4th parade? And that was a brilliant idea he tend to have and inculcate that into a lot of people here. Other than that, he was working with the Seva International. He was working on the parallel projects within India, and a lot of other activities he were doing. So the what Milind has kind of a frustration, or I would say disappointment, with the SB 403 and related kinds of attacks or Hindu phobia, Hindu hatred happening within the California. It resonates with each and everyone here. He was a forefronter, and I feel sorry for him. And I hope the assembly members and the Senate tend to realize that this was a sacrifice he made, and they definitely has to take some more time in looking into it, because caste is a racial slur and N word, and which is not acceptable for us, which is in the SB 403. And based, I mean, say, if you tend to turn back SB 403, the logical argument is the Cisco case was filed without SB 403 being there. So the existing laws suffices the requirement that you don't require caste to be specifically mentioned in the law, discrimination law, to try to uh, enact as part of the discrimination policy. Thank you.
Thank you. Pushpitaji,
Vibhuti ji, I just want to add one thing, a
I'm
couple
going
of
to
things.
ask you my question. That's why. So before you
Yeah, I just wanted to add one thing on Milinji, which is very important. So I think Milinji's story is, we already talked, he's from marginalized community, but he was, if you look at in Santa Clara County, when Milinji and I spoke together as part of the Hindu groups pushing back, that video is still up there. Milinji and Sandeep ji were the only ones interrupted by the chair. Out in that 7-hour briefing, they were the only ones interrupted, which to me is emblematic of the problem. Everybody who feels SB 403 and these caste warriors are pushing for justice for the marginalized, they have to go and look at the reality that when the marginalized communities try to speak for themselves, they are silenced. Milinji and Sandeep ji, that video is up there, and I'll send you a link if you wish to share it, but they were silenced. And Milinji also, if you look at the history of his community was deemed a so-called a criminal caste or a lower caste by the British colonial people. And so this is exactly the problem, that this whole caste narrative is racist, it's colonial, and it's really against the very people it claims to be protecting. I think that point is lost because many of our own folks get caught up in the fact that this is about social justice and fixing things. And I'm sure the intent is good, but a lot of bad laws bad actions and bad laws come masked in benign intent. And SB 403 is a prime example of a bad law masquerading under, good sounding intent.
thank you for that addition. Appreciate that. Geeta ji, I'm coming to you. Pushpita ji, apna mute kar lijiye, please. हाँ. Geeta ji, I'm coming to you, piggybacking on
I
what
just
Satish
wanted
ji
to
and
add on
Pushpita ji
Milind
said.
Makwana ji.
Yeah, but please add that. But let me finish my question, then you add that, because that's relevant part, what Pushpita ji said and Satish ji said, that here was a marginalized community talking about, a member of the marginalized community talking about himself, that he is not being taken into account. And that the two people who were attacked and not allowed to speak or interrupted were these two people. So it is a historical injustice classified by the British rule and whatever happened. My question to you, please do add something about Milanji, but I want to also to address this particular important thing, that US Constitution, so far as I know, and this is where HAF stand is too, it already provides for no discrimination based on ancestry, race, color of skin, religion, gender, or national origin. What is the compelling necessity for a first-time Afghan origin woman to become such a vociferous attacker on us? Particularly, I would ask Senator Wahab, why aren't you fighting for the women's rights in Afghanistan, for that matter? I would ask the same question to AOC and others, Ilhan Omar and, Tlaib and others. Why aren't you fighting for your own people rather than bothered about us? Geetaji, please go ahead.
Thank you. That you are spot on, Vibhuti with this question, because not only the U.S. Constitution but also the California Civil Code, Section 51, in it is listed the Jesse M. Unruh Civil Rights Act, which provides protection from discrimination, and this is specific to California, by all businesses in California, including housing and public facilities, because of age, ancestry, color, disability, national origin, race, religion, sex, and sexual orientation. So therefore, it leads us to believe as a Hindu community that we are being targeted by Senator Aisha Wahab and her partner, who is Timosi Sundarajan of Equality Labs. She has produced this flawed survey. I'm a scientist, so I know when it's a flawed survey, it is a flawed survey. There's no statistical analysis. In fact, we suspect fraud, and it should be investigated by the California authorities, because we've been told that they actually gave away the San Jose zip code to the people, the participants that took the survey, even if the participants were from out of California or even out of the country. Wow. So we've got a very fraud activist group that actually took the survey, and not real Dalits that were like Mr. Milind Makwana-ji. And I want to end with this particular segment with saying that Milind Makwana-ji's testimony at the Cupertino City Council, he specifically stated, and I'm going to quote, "This bill is about us without us. I oppose this bill because it will destroy my Hindu culture and religion. Let us dance our way to fairness." An hour later, he collapsed outside the Cupertino City Council hall and died of a massive sudden heart attack.
That's, it is a tragedy on two fronts. One, such a valiant warrior with a heart condition in a wheelchair, and youngish person, approximately just over 50, losing his life to the stress caused by the vagabonds out there, is a tragic loss. And the tragic loss is also of the warrior, of the individual, the family. So it must hit all of us equally hard, regardless of our origin, because you and I don't talk about caste with each other ever. In my 40 years of life in the US, I have never encountered that anybody has indulged in caste-based conversation at all. We have been successful because we work hard. So Chandrasekhar ji, I will ask you this particular inquiry with you. How did the caste thing, since you have involved with HSS, how did the caste thing get slapped on Hindus? It is there in India. Indian government has done enormous amount of things to rectify the administrative support and facilities. Here in the US, How did it get slapped? And how, apart from our apathy, how come we are still being शतरंज के खिलाड़ी? हमारा कुछ नहीं होगा. How do we address that challenge?
Yes. So, as I said before, also that there are certain set of interest. They always want to hammer Hindus in whenever, whatever way they could do, and they found this weapon, caste weapon, to target entire Indian American community and largely Hindus. So, so if we look at the history, right, the caste history, like caste become dominant effect during the British rules, and we all know, right, entire world know how Britishers ruled everywhere, right? What kind of the policies they had. So this caste become a kind of a predominant factor during the British era, and post independence, then there were several laws were kind of framed about caste. Maybe because of the certain situations. But if we look at now, what was the need of bringing caste to America? Because even the people, even the people who are kind of supporting this bill, I know some of them, they are my good friend. So when I was talking to them before bringing this bill, coming this issue into mainstream America, they used to say that caste we left in India. We do not talk about India. Even I never talked about caste to my kids. Same thing, Satyji, same thing, all of you, right? We never discussed because we said we kind of left that caste back to India, and whomsoever came to America, they came on their merit basis. They got their job, right? They got their positions, everything on the merit basis. So we had left the caste, but the but this kind of a people having this equality lab who are kind of a Hindu phobic, and we had seen it like when this debate started earlier phases, we were seeing the public comments related to connecting caste with Hinduism. There were kind of a even in the companies like a PayPal where Milind was the employee and several other companies. The moment they discussed the caste, immediately after a few minutes, Hinduism would pop in that it is coming from the Hinduism. So this is kind of a purposely set up narratives to hammer Indian American and Hindus specifically, because we are seeing that various Hindus are kind of a have created a billion dollar companies, right? So there are establishments, so they are successful, they are everywhere, but we never used our religion word or Hindu word or caste as a word to kind of a so we kind of kept everything aside. What we did, what are the achievements we have based upon the merit basis, right? But this group always have to hammer us, and they found this as a weaponized. So they are using this caste as a weapon to kind of put us into a defending situation. And unfortunately, as I said in the beginning, our entire community, our massive community, are still unaware of it.
That's the ignorance is not bliss when it comes to many topics. I don't know. That's why I use the phrase that Hindu community somewhere along the line resembles lotus eaters and shatranj ke khiladi. Hame kuch nahi hoga. That kind of an attitude there. Satish ji, I'm coming to you on this subject matter.
Should I make one comment?
Please do. Go ahead.
Yeah. So if you look at the Cisco discrimination case and what has been mentioned on the castgate.org, where this plaintiff is openly coming and talking also about what kind of harassment he went through. But he also said that he never used caste or he never followed any kind of rituals associated what caste is. So now what happens is that our Hindu community's problem is that when things hurt us, then and then we start realizing the gravity of the situations, right? What a plaintiff in that Cisco case is going through, and we had a conversation that until this issue popped up, what was your contribution? Your the entire life was surrounded, our life is surrounded about ourselves, that my job, my family. Beyond that, we don't look at there are community issues also, we have to participate, right? So this is the aspect every Hindus have to consider wherever they are, whatever, wherever they are in the entire world. We have to be careful what is happening against us. If we do not participate, try to correct, then definitely, as Gitaji said, our kids are going to ask, what did you do that time? And what is the answer we will have? So I will end my thoughts on this note.
That's a very elegant thought, because I have been saying this for last 5 years on my television shows and otherwise, that if Indian community doesn't get engaged in local activities, starting from PTA, if we do not get involved in education board, and the communities that we live in, we end up becoming not only Coop Manduk. With our crab mentality, we suffer a lot. So I'm coming to Satishji on this very issue. And I wanted to talk about, because caste is not only an American challenge for Hindus, it has historical background back home. You and I don't talk about it here, but do you visualize that this particular thing hurting us here will have ramifications for Hindus in India, one way or the other, or not at all? And the second question to this I will add also here is that, people say, many Indians say, oh, what is the problem about caste? We have caste. How wrong are they in that perception? Go ahead, Satishji.
Oh, thank you so much for the question. Very very well articulated.
Thank
So,
you.
couple of things to note down, right? As Chandrasekhar ji and others were mentioning, we have vicious forces. I would say equality labs. Added to that, you have care also. We have some unknown at the background working due diligently how to suppress us, how to suppress our voices, and they get a a kind of favorism even in the media, even in other places also, even I would say unions or other things, right? Just I'm trying to deviate from the existing one, right? Because the SB 403, the wrapper looks awesome. It's a discrimination bill. Most of the people initially, when they tend to vote it on it, they tend to like, okay, it's a discrimination bill, it's a wrapper is awesome. They don't want to get insights into it, like they did not do a kind of full research of what it means. They best blindly believed the equality lab survey, and that's the notion, and they came with their own kind of prejudice and voted on it. So the ramifications of this bill, not only it started way back, uh, maybe 2 to 3 years back, it has been started within the California in certain cities, certain counties, and slowly in Seattle, it was a big success for them. And right now they are bringing into California. And I would say that the ramifications would be here in US, as well as in India, as well as in Europe, wherever you are going to have Hindu population. And it's very sad that they are kumbhakarns in Hindus. They're sleeping unless and until there is a saying, right? The water gets underneath. They don't realize that this is a serious problem they have. That what has happened in Kenya, what has happened in Uganda, what has happened in Somalia. At the end stage, we tend to realize that we are under attack, and we are trying our level best to awaken these people. uh, so to come into this is my perception, right? So the whole attack to undermine Hindus is mostly concentrated on 2024 elections. I would say in India, with Modi ji doing great things for India and as well as the world, right? So I think they are trying to indirectly use us, weaponize us, undermine us here, and try to bring some kind of an control kind of a mechanism or demeaning kind of a mechanism within the India also. The actual problems I would see, right? So most of them here came on H1, Okay, once you tend to have this caste, there is a fear psychosis which gets generated, and right now because of the stringent laws within the H1, right, a lot of people, I mean, say 90-day period, or getting your H1 approval and all the process, it complicates this situation here. Like how you tend to find out oppressor and oppressed within this SB 403 kind of a bill. They are planning to start even in Oregon also. So definitely it will have a serious ramifications, and this is only pertain to Hindus. Why not to Muslims? Why not to Christians? Do you tend to see a lot of differentiations between the Muslims also? If you tend to say Sunni, Shia, Ahmadiyya, if you talk about Senator Wahabs within the Afghanistan, see how Hazaras are treated. You know, so I think this is specifically the reason is the overall within the world there is a target they want to target because Hindus are doing well, and at the same moment they wanted to cut down our presence in the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Pushpitaji, you are permitted to leave. Please sign off. No problem. Thank you very much for joining as long as you did. Gitaji, I'm coming to you with two thoughts of mine, in the remaining time that I have. Is the caste slur on Indians equivalent to or similar to the N word that is used against blacks? Can you explain that to us? But the reason why I say that, because none of us are castes here. We have never practiced it, but we are branded as that. Blacks objected to that nigger thing, N word, and it's gone. It's gone. What do we need to do to set right that narrative? That goes away not only here, but the rest of the world, just as the N word you do not use against anybody at all.
I think we need to nullify the false narrative that caste is Hindu. This is a book I want to share with our viewers, that caste is not Hindu. And it explains the whole history behind why this narrative was propagated by the British imperialists when they ruled in India. Because Aisha Wahab says that she will not remove the caste word. And for us, caste word is stigmatizing us Hindus. So my question to Senator Wahab is, would you draft a legislation that was anti-Jewish or anti-Muslim? So why are you drafting a legislation that is anti-Hindu? That's the answer we need to ask all our legislators. And if I could take a few teenagers with me, I would tell the teenagers to ask our legislators, hey dude, can you define what is caste? Do you know what caste is? None of them know what caste is because there is no single definition of caste, because it was thrust upon us based on the Portuguese word castas. We never had that in our scriptures. Our Ramayana was written by Valmiki, who was so-called from the lower caste, right? And our Mahabharata was written again by Vedvyas, who was also from the lower caste. Do you think our scriptures, our religion would have, if it was practicing caste, would have allowed that? No. So this is proof. And Bhagwan Ram ne shabri ke ber khaye. We know that. Sudama आई भगवान कृष्णा के पास, कितनी इज्जत दी भगवान कृष्णा ने उनको. So हमारे में कभी कास्ट का नहीं था. This has been forced and thrusted upon us by the British, and this narrative needs to be nullified now. ASAP.
Thank you. Chandrasekharji, I'm coming to you with my remaining one part of the thing that I want to know about it is that, yes, all we know about it. Caste got imposed on us. The British did it. It's a Portuguese word. We have heard about it many times. My thing is that, as a responsible person, if I don't change the narrative, if I don't correct the perspective, why would anybody else do? So tell me one thing. We had Varna and Jati. Rajiv Malhotra ji wrote a wonderful book on Varna, Jati, and caste. How come we have not, you and I, the community as a whole in this country and back in India, how come we have never taught the world, propagated to the world that we are Varnawalas, we are Jatiwalas, we are not Castewalas. Your take on that. What do we need to do now? Even now, we are not talking about that. Let me tell you that. It's Jaipur Dialogue and myself and people like some of us are talking about it, but many don't. That's the problem that I'm facing, that we are not able to even advocate the truth in the manner that it deserves to be mentioned.
Yeah.
Chandrasekharji.
Yeah, this is definitely a serious question which we all of us have to ponder upon. That if we do not write the history, then somebody else drops the history for us. So that is kind of a pretty strong say which we know. But unfortunately, if we look at we as a Hindus, right? So in India, we kind of a being the secular country, right? Post independence, the kind of governments we had ruling India, right? So this secularism has become the part of our life. So as a part of this secularism, Hindus have taken that secularism to their heart such a way that even addressing themselves as a Hindu, we never thought about it, right? But when we look at other religions, right, even if we look at the presidential debate, that time every president kind of talks about the faith, what they belong, what denominations they belong. But if we try to do, but the same person from the being a Hindu uses the word Hindu, then it becomes a kind of a slur, right? As you said earlier, that these people are not secular, right? So the systematic impact what happened on our mind, right from our upbringing to kind of a becoming like an adult, this secularism buried into such an extent that we kind of many a times either we kind of afraid or we don't want to talk about our religious identity, right? So that is where the most of the root cause of the problem lies, right? The sooner we realize it, it is better, because in this country, when people anybody look at like say from India, they cannot differentiate many people based upon their religion because we look same, right? So there are multiple religions, right, which we have, right? So there are Hindu, there are Buddhist, there are Jains, right? Sikhism, right? So but we try to kind of keep this word Hindu away from being the secular aspect which has been thrown out, kind of a which is having a bigger impact. So if we come out of that secularism is important, respecting every faith is important, ident- identifying that there can be a discrimination, and there are already laws protecting against the discrimination. We have to understand that why it is happening for Hindus, right? And now, if we go beyond and try to analyze the situations, if we look at, right, we are a major contributor into technology. In America also, like our Hindu leaders, they are starting a companies and directly helping the American economy, right? But we are not going beyond it, right? So we kind of lagged into political areas where our people are not coming forward. In kind of a journalism, if we look at, in the journalism we are lacking behind. Uh, uh, so in various ways, so I think this is where we all have to kind of dig into. It is important that various leaders have to kind of be vocal, participating in politics, in media, as well as kind of bringing their children into various other fields other than STEM, right? Where STEM is our kind of our strong area. So then and then, in my opinion, we will be able to contribute and participate. Whatever the issues our community is facing, we will have also our narratives. If our kids and our people are also in kind of a in journalism and in the media, like Vibhuti who is running the channel. We need more of people like you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. The concern is real, but we are out of time. Obviously, we can't solve the problem in 1 hour of conversation. We need to have many more. In addition to building the narrative, creating the repetitive narrative, and rectifying the false narrative. But I have two questions. The first one to all three of you. Give a short answer to that. The question is, there are so many Indian CEOs of technology companies everywhere. They are all there because of their merit. Caste has not played a single role in it. What is their scenario from institutional framework, Hindus for America? Geetaji, you are an academician, scientist, and researcher. Chandrasekharji, you have worked with Cisco, you are involved on the grassroots level. I have not seen a single guy, any of these top 100 Indian CEOs, say once, guys, we are here not because of caste privilege, but because we performed well. Have you come across any support from any of these hundreds of CEOs that founders are, entrepreneurs who have set up billion-dollar companies or are managing $100 billion companies? Go ahead, Geetaji.
So you're absolutely spot on again that we have not received any support. In fact, we have received counter support to our issue. And case in point is Sabir Bhatia of the Hotmail founder. He wrote a letter supporting SB 403. Can you believe that? He actually wrote a letter to support SB 403. He did harm to all of us. We all wrote rebuttals to him. We never got any acknowledgement from him. Thank you.
Wow. Satishji?
Well, I would second that. What Geeta ji has said. See, the very unfortunate situation is that we have so many CEOs and high tech people sitting in the top chairs, but nobody wants to embrace as a Hindu. I appreciate Vivek Ramaswamy is coming openly, and I appreciate he has openly said he's a Hindu, and in the debates also he said to counter that and articulate and being compassionate to other religions and how he tends to look the Hindu being Hindu and relating to the other religions. And so it's very shameful that these all so-called CEOs, I think I would try to put it on records that I would say that these are all selfish Hindus, and they are only worried about their pockets and their own network, and they are not looking at the larger picture, which is going to hurt in coming future years, not only to the community, their own kids also. So definitely there should be some kind of awakening. I will leave it to the other people to think about it and give their views. Thank you.
Thank you, Satishji. Very bold and very straight up comment, and I appreciate that. We need to have people like you to be able to call things out. Chandrasekharji, you have been in Cisco, you have worked there. Do you mean to say that the Indian CEOs not Indian CEOs, Indian American CEOs of these companies, they have no sympathy or they are apathetic towards the plight of Cisco, Mr. Iyer?
I think definitely the Cisco case, if CEOs kind of tries to find a time from their busy schedule, they will realize that the intentions behind the case and how a person of Hindu origin can be hammered in the future because the entire organization might feel that if a Hindu becomes a manager, they can bring the caste discrimination. If this understanding is there, populated with every leader, then and then, in my opinion, these leaders will become serious to understand the gravity and the impact of a bill like SB 403 hammering the enterprises, right? Because the skilled labor, what every company is having, is the Indian American who kind of got the job based on their merit basis. But this caste bill can become a hampering into their professional career. If this acceptance goes well, then and then the CEOs will understand the gravity, right? So that is where I think our role also kind of a will be to kind of a bring awareness, and how these CEOs will accept this fact. It is again, I cannot make a comment because it is their personal life, their personal belief. So they have to decide what is right and what is not right.
When the personal belief is hurt, then it doesn't matter anymore. So the CEOs have to realize that you are the target. If you're not you, your children are the target, or they will suffer eventually. Gitaji, I'm coming to you with the last question of the day, and you have to end it in a short 30 seconds. Knowing what we know, my favorite phrase all the time. Knowing what we know, knowing where we stand, what next must happen? How do we wake up the slumbering secular Hindu?
That is $1 million question. How to wake up. Even my own friends who are part of my Gita study group call themselves secular and therefore do not want anything to do with politics. I keep reminding them that I'm doing my karma for my dharma, and won't you offer your karma for your dharma? And they say, no, we don't want anything to do with politics. That's my quick answer
Wow.
to you.
Listen, I mean, this is a very engrossing conversation, and I'm particularly delighted to have you people who have been battling it out in the battlefield yourselves. So your experience matters, and I'm very happy with the candid expressions that you have talked about. The slumbering, sleepy, apathetic Hindu doesn't believe that secularism is the dimak that is eating you up. So, with these words, I want to thank all of you for being here. Thank you very much for this conversation. We will continue the dialogue because I want to hear more from folks like you. I don't need to talk to the big names, as the saying goes. You are the real soldiers of the entire battle that is going on. Viewers, please like, subscribe, and support our channel. We have to get people like this, people like them, to come and speak and inspire you. If they can do, why not you? Satyamev Jayate. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Vibhutiji.
Console, we are done. You can close the show. You will get the notation here, program ended. So then now it will have to be edited. That's all right.
This is just for you, for us here. I wanted to share. If you had time, I would have said it, but it's a nice closure to what we're talking about. We have been eating, drinking, sleeping, grieving, and combating SB 403 since March of this year. The victimhood activists have been shouting about caste without any evidence. The politicians have been making announcements based on misinformation about caste. The lawyers have been making misjudgments about caste, so they can drum up their business. The teachers have been teaching caste. Alas, the only voice which has been denied a platform, a group which has not been consulted, are California's Hindu Americans, the very people this legislation targets. Thank you.
I wish you had made it part of the whole thing.
I would have loved to, but you said we're out of time. So
Oh, no. You can always say that. Ab mushkil ho gaya. Otherwise, I would ask you to repeat this entire thing. And
I would have loved to, but I didn't want to,
do me a favor. Do me a favor. Read the poem as an ending. Go ahead.
Okay.
Do it now. Do it now.
Okay.
I'll see if I can fix it up.
Ever since SB 403 was introduced in March of this year, we Hindus have been eating, drinking, sleeping, grieving, and combating SB 403. Meanwhile, the victimhood activists who have much to gain from profiting because they are for profit, like Equality Labs, have been shouting about caste without any evidence of caste discrimination in America. The politicians have been making misinformed comments about caste. The lawyers have been making judgments about caste without any discrimination evidence, yet they want to drum up their business. The teachers have been teaching caste based on misinformation. The only voice which has been denied a platform, a group which has not been consulted, are California's Hindu Americans, the very people this legislation targets. Thank you.
Great, thank you.